project was actually quite amazing. If you think about that, we started the process in 1998 and delivered it by the year 2000. That's a 2-year period. To build an interconnector today would take you 5 to 7 years just because of the way things have changed.
It was something certainly my children have never experienced and have grown up in an environment where the lights don't go out. When I was growing up, we kind of had a dedicated drawer where you always knew where the candles were, just in case that thing happened.
People don't realise that prior to that coming in, there were regular power cuts on the Isle of Man. Because we were relying on diesel engines at the power station, they would trip off from time to time and people's lights would actually go out on the island. But since the cable's been delivered and installed and switched on, the reliability has been absolutely phenomenal.
It was the longest AC interconnector cable in the world, so actually to undertake that feat of engineering and something that really, that it was groundbreaking.
This here actually is a sample of the power cable that's actually buried in the seabed. The cable is a 3-core cable. It's got 3 separate cables bundled into a 3-core with heavy protective armour around the outside, you can see here, for obviously the environment it's laid in. The total weight on the vessel at the time when it was installed was over 5,000 tonnes. So it was a large, hefty length of cable that had to be obviously laid from Port Skillion right the way through over to Bisbam.
My memories, I suppose, of that time was a lot of activity and a lot of excitement around something that had never happened to the island before. We had different nationalities on the island attending. Pirelli had brought some Italian divers over and things to help float this cable ashore down at Port Skillion.
The day we brought it ashore was early May, and it was an absolutely beautiful day off Port Skillion, which was what was required really, because that was one of the concerns, was the weather conditions during the laying process. Probably by about about 3:30 or something in the afternoon, it was successfully ashore, and we were all sort of patting each other on the back and saying congratulations, we've actually started this project.
Another key memory for me, I think, was probably the day the Julio Verne vessel arrived at Douglas, and we went on board and did a tour of the vessel. And I remember sort of standing at the very front of the vessel, hand on the end of this cable, thinking this is heading to Blackpool, which was it's quite a big moment really. The sheer size of the cable and the way it was just coiled up on the back, it was just incredible.
We buried the cable as we went across the UK, and this was done with a massive big burial plough, which if you can imagine like an agricultural plough behind a tractor, this burial plough is probably about 10 times bigger than that. Absolutely massive thing. Which is sort of lowered to the seabed, and it gets pulled along behind the plough vessel to actually bury the cable.
Alongside the power cable, which is this here, was a fibre optic cable laid as well, and this is the fibre optic cable here. Obviously the fibre optic cable is there for our sort of command and control. The fibre optic cabling also has the capacity to carry telecoms and telecommunication across the link.
We eventually got round to the day of actually switching the interconnector on so that we could connect up to the UK and actually start taking electricity over it. And the day we actually did that was in October, and it was actually the night of clock change. In fact, we needed that extra hour to get all the testing done, all the commissioning done before we actually switched it on. So it was very fortuitous that we were able to claw an hour back from the clock change to be able to do that.
Literally, we had a phone call through to say the subsea cable had been switched over, and it was almost a disappointment because there was nothing. There was actually nobody. I think at the time somebody said, well, nobody felt a thing, and we didn't, which I suppose is the part of the success of it. and it still continues to do that today.
Not only do we bring power in, but we take power out. So arguably it makes money for us as well, which puts us in a very good position. And indeed that's part of its legacy, is it's going to work for us in the years to come, work for our businesses, strengthen our economy.
If you can put strong interconnection into other jurisdictions and trade that power both ways, then that gives you the ability to really grow your society and your economy.
So I suppose the impact of the interconnector is far-reaching, really. For our customers, it's clean, dependable, reliable energy, which is cost-effective to Isle of Man customers. If it's more effective to import, we will schedule imports. If it's better for us to generate and export the surplus, then we'll do that.
Over the 25 years of the interconnector's operation, we've exported 2.3 billion units of electricity to Great Britain, and we've made revenues on that of £230 million and net profits of over £80 million, which goes directly back to customers to cut their bills. So not only has the cable added an enormous amount of resiliency to our system, we've been able to save carbon emissions from not burning diesel when the gas-fired station has been in maintenance.
The subsea cable sits in the Marine Nature Reserve, which is called Little Ness, and it is one of the most prolific areas for marine life around the Isle of Man. Because the subsea cable sits there, it's a protected area, so it can't be dredged, it can't be looked. So it actually looks after both the asset, which is the island's subsea cable, and also the marine environment. I think that's a real big success story just in itself.
So over the 25 years, the interconnector's been in service for about just over 9,000 days, and in total of them 9,000 days, it's only been out of service for about 26 of them. So the reliability of the assets is extremely high, and we take a lot of pride in that. That's myself and my team, and we are continually monitoring and putting provision in place to ensure we can operate that asset now, and for another, we're looking to achieve at least another 30 years out of that asset.
But we must never forget that it was an absolute fantastic feat of engineering that delivered this to the island. And it was a task that was taken on by Manx Utilities and delivered by Manx Utilities. And I'm very proud to lead an organisation which has the foresight to do those type of things.
You know, I'll probably say this a million times. I am so proud of all our staff. We are skilled in maybe 50, 60, 70 different disciplines, and that all comes together for a common cause, and that's for our community, for our island. We're here to deliver that for them.
It fills me with a great sense of pride whenever I think about the infrastructure that Manx Utilities is responsible for, whether it be a subsea cable, a power station, a reservoir, or whatever it is. The responsibility that we have for the island is huge. The team at Manx Utilities are homegrown. They are majoritarily Manx people that have come up through the ranks over, you know, decades of training, from apprenticeships up to management. And that commitment to deliver for the people of the island is always there. We see it through storm responses and things like that. But I'm immensely proud of the people who I work with.
Me and the team feel quite privileged that we're able to actually be involved with the interconnector. We do see it as a real major project that the island's undertaken in recent years.
Without Manx Utilities, the island stops, and the island stops within about half an hour. We supply water, we supply electricity, we look after the wastewater, we look at gas supplies coming into the Isle of Man as well.
I think what I've discovered since I've been on the Isle of Man is how vital the power system is to the economy of the Isle of Man, and the interconnector has been an absolutely vital element of that. If you think about technically what it does, it provides so many benefits, but the people of the Isle of Man don't really realise it, and that's the great thing. It's sitting there behind the scenes, keeping our energy system stable and providing the resiliency that is so important to the economy of the Isle of Man.